Don't make the mistake of thinking that just because you have left your abusive environment, that everything is over and you can let your guard down. My name is Dr. Felucia, and I'm a licensed psychologist, and I specialize in the treatment and recovery from spiritual abuse. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the things that you need to really be careful of as you've left the spiritually abusive or any other type of abusive environment. And also, if you are experiencing any kind of abuse, I do have resources in the comment section for you to look at. So, again, I started the video by saying that don't make the mistake of believing that just because you've left that abusive environment that it's all over now. It's really important that as you are transitioning out of whatever abusive environment that you're in, that you pay very close attention to the people who are around you. Okay, I'm sure you probably heard this quote before. You are the company you keep. There's another quote that says, like, you are the average of the five people that you spend the most time with. That's by a man named Jim Rohn, who's a motivational speaker. And so I'm telling you these things to let you know that the people you spend time with are really going to have a critical role in how you recover from spiritual abuse. Now, there are many different types of people, but I'm going to talk in this video about the three types of people that you really need to avoid at all costs. Okay. And they do all begin with the letter A. So hopefully that will help you remember them. The first one is somebody who is on the extreme ends of anger. So I want you to remember the word anger. So when we think about the extreme ends of anger, there's some people that are extremely hostile, irritable all the time, right? I want you to think about that. Have you ever met somebody or interacted with somebody who just seems to be angry all the time? A lot of abusive people are like that, and they have this like low level running in the background anger, and they're also very easily triggered. And so you don't want to have those people around as part of your recovery. Okay. The other end of the spectrum are people that cannot admit that they're angry. And actually, I feel like that is even more dangerous because it's very unhealthy to go through life and believe that you cannot get angry or that it's wrong to get angry. And you might think, well, why is that dangerous? I feel like at least with people who are overly angry, the ones that just crash out at the drop of a dime, they're always angry, getting into it with everyone. I feel like it's kind of easier to stay away from those people. But the people that cannot admit that they're angry and have a poor relationship with identifying anger, that's very dangerous. And I've noticed that in a lot of spiritual communities, anger is demonized, and the feeling of anger in and of itself is neutral. It really depends on what you do with that anger, right? You can choose to deal with it in a healthy way, or you can choose to deal with it in an unhealthy way. A lot of people who enable spiritual abuse, I've noticed, are the type of people who will say things like, well, I don't get angry, or I never get angry, or being angry is bad. Like they demonize anger. And so anybody who's angry to them is like a bad person. And that is actually very unhealthy. And if you think about it, if somebody cannot admit that they themselves get angry or they think that anger is bad, then they are going to try and either enable the abuse that you are going through or that you've just left, or be very dismissive. And I've noticed people who are like, they believe that they don't get angry or they get bothered by anger. I've noticed that a lot of them just like are proponents of continuing abuse. And so you have to really, really be careful with these types of people because on the outside, they may seem nice. They may seem like, wow, we may even look up to them and say, wow, I'm so amazed that they don't get angry. But in my experience, a lot of people that are like that are very self-righteous and very judgmental. And think about it, if they look down, like everybody experiences anger, right? Even if someone says that they don't experience anger, they do. And so the fact that someone is that out of touch with their emotions, number one, is a huge red flag. And then the second thing is that people like this, when they see somebody else get angry, they get really like it's like they can't handle it, right? And they, like let's say you're talking with somebody like this and you're like, yeah, you talk about maybe something that was very frustrating, in your day. Maybe something happened at work that was really unfair and you're angry about it. And you share that with them. The person that can't deal with their anger is going to look down on you for that. They may say, well, just pray about it, or it could be worse. Like you expressing anger is too much for them. Now, remember I talked about that other extreme of people that get very angry. That is not appropriate either, right? And I don't even want to say get very angry. I will correct what I said. It's people who have a bad relationship with anger in the sense they can't control how they express it. So one end of the spectrum, problematic expressions of anger. It's easier to stay away from people like that. It's the people that are not that way that you really want to keep an eye on. The people that um, judge you rather for being angry. And again, anger doesn't have to come in the form of like basically, okay, let me rephrase that. What I'm saying is that when you are experiencing anger as an emotion, the most important thing is how are you dealing with that? And I've noticed that a lot of people who enable abuse are not even able to get in touch with their own anger. So I have a video about this earlier in my series. You'll look and see it's in like the comment, not the comment section, the playlist about a an emotion that spiritual abusers fear the most. And I would say that they fear anger from the victim or survivor because when you are angry about the abuse that you have experienced or are experiencing, it can really light a fire under you to do something, right? And so I don't look at anger as a bad thing. It just depends on how it is expressed. And I've heard some of these people say some really ridiculous things about anger. I remember one person said that he would never get angry about anything. Which is clearly like not true. He might feel that way, but I remember this guy used to say this all the time and kind of as a way to put down everybody else. Like, I never experience anger. I guess so ascended or whatever that I don't experience this. So that's one thing to be careful of. And again, people who think this way tend to enable abusers. I've noticed this a lot. And so they think you are the bad person for being angry about being abused. I remember someone came up and someone told me a story about what had happened to her. She's in like a spiritually abusive church, and she was talking to, one of the elder women there about like how her spouse had a really bad anger problem. And this woman told this, young woman who had just gotten married that, well, why are you trying to control your husband? He can feel whatever he wants to feel. And in a sense, that's true. Remember, I said that spiritually abusive people say things that on the surface sound true. On the surface, you can't control anybody. But this man's anger was really having a very negative effect on this young lady. She felt scared, she didn't feel safe. And so instead of this elder in the church like sitting down with her and listening, it was basically like, oh, you're trying to control your husband and say that he shouldn't be angry. And it wasn't the anger, it was the expression, because he used the anger in essence to manipulate her. So people like that, be very, very careful of, okay? I've talked a lot in this video, so I think I'm gonna do like a part two of this. I'm just gonna focus on anger for today. Okay, so There's a part two to this, which I will record, but I really want you to just pay attention to anger. I believe this deserves like a separate video because it's so important. And I also want you to remember that your anger is not bad. A lot of people who enable abusers will try to make you the bad person because you are angry about the abuse that you're feeling. It's very dehumanizing. And it is also unfair, and it is also abusive in and of itself. Because imagine like you are running away from somebody who's trying to harm you, and maybe go to the hospital or something, and then at the hospital someone brings out a baseball bat and starts hitting you, right? You're running to a place for refuge and you're getting harmed. That's really important to keep in mind when you are associating with people as part of your spiritual abuse recovery or any type of abuse. Now, I can hear someone saying something along the lines of, well, what if that person who has a bad relationship with their anger, who doesn't express their anger well, what if they were spiritually abused too? Or what if they were abused too? Yeah, that's a huge possibility, but you're not responsible for their healing or their inner work. So that is something they have to work out and not inflict on you. And so I want you, the next time you feel anger, I want you to think about, first of all, how you respond, and then also the messaging that you've gotten around anger. Spiritually abusive people really don't like anger, they fear it. And so when you have that fire lit under you to do something, I want you to do something about it, right? Listen and figure out, okay, like what am I supposed to be doing? If you're angry about something, what action can you take? I've noticed that for a lot of people, their first step out of that spiritually abusive environment or abusive relationship was their anger. It catapulted them to do something. So that is it for now. Stay tuned for part two of this video where I talk about the two other types of people that can sabotage your progress. My website is skillsetcounseling.com, and you can go there to look at information about the services that I provide. I hope you have a wonderful day that's filled with peace. Oh, and before I sign off, I would like to hear from you all in the comment section. Have you dealt with people who act this way toward anger? And, how do you feel that can derail your progress? All right. So I'd love to hear from you in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.